Carlos Alcaraz has won the last 2 Grand Slam titles at the French Open on the clay and at Wimbledon earlier this summer. He enters as the favorite.
You have a bunch of depth there. Francis Tiafoe, Ben Shelton. They will likely play in round 3. The winner would play Djokovic, most likely, which would be an incredible match. I like Ben Shelton as a sleeper. If Djokovic is hurt, you never know. I think Shelton could actually be the guy that gets hot. The conditions favor him.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Hey, let's say it comes down for Matt Kuchar in the FedEx Cup ball. Let's say he doesn't make a cut, and it comes down to one shot. And
that's a good point.
And he keeps his card for the top 125 because he did make the jump from, I think it was 113 to 103. So he made a 10-spot jump. So he's got, 17, or let's see, that was not good math. He's got about 20.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We're into a different regime, different ownership, different head coach. I like the head coach. Dan Quinn is a good football man. He has been around where he's been. They have won. Yes, he's had some talent there.
I'm incredibly excited for what this brings to the team. The defense, I think, is underrated. I think this is a good football team. And also, you talk about extending drives. I think Daniels has that ability. And that's something that hasn't been seen in Washington for quite some time.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
Let's go.
Welcome to the Live Golf Team Championship.
The golf has been mesmerizing.
They are the Live Golf Team Champions.
Team golf is back.
Oh, yes!
Are you ready?
Let's go! That's what champions do.
Time to rise and grind with us on the Early Line on a Wednesday hump day edition right here on the SportsGrid Network, Sirius XM channel 159. Guys, it's August 28th. Only a few more days before we hit the month of September. A massive college football weekend on the horizon where we will see games on Thursday, on Friday, on Saturday, on Sunday, and Monday. And that leads us right into NFL Week 1. It is a great time. Major League Baseball in full swing, crazy games in the WNBA, and a lot of hot topics to talk about. I'm Donnie Rightside. He's Dubs Anderson. We are ready to go, Dubsy. It's a Wednesday. It's a hump day. How are the vibes out there on the West Coast?
Woof, woof, woof. The dog days of summer are officially done, so Donnie. We got everything in the mix. We've even got a little US Open tennis, a little Tour Championship, $25 million worth of reasons to finish up on top. So absolutely jacked, Donnie. And I've also got a couple of drafts coming up this week, so it really doesn't get much better.
That doesn't. I mean, fantasy football in full effect here. So many drafts going off. The best time of the year starts right now, and we'll get to the 7-7 with the hot topics on deck. The Bengals. And I don't know where this is headed, Dubs. We are going to expound on this a little bit more in the next segment. But the Bengals expect their star wide receiver, Jamar Chase, to play in the opener after having a sit-in for what feels like months and months and months here. And it doesn't look like right now he's going to get a new contract. Whether or not Jamar Chase shows up week number 1, they should be able to handle their business against the Patriots. But this was one of those stunners where we didn't know what was going to happen. It looks like he could be playing without a new contract, Dubs, week number 1.
Yeah, a bit of optimism here for the Bengals in Cincinnati. Head coach Zach Taylor coming out telling us he's got a couple of reps in there, and he certainly is the most potent weapon for that Bengals offense that looks to capitalize off a returning healthy Joe Burrow there at quarterback. For Chase, he's still got 2 years remaining on that rookie deal and getting set to play on that option with $21.8 million. Donnie, I think he's certainly a top 3 wide receiver in the game. He's probably sitting back saying, hey, CD got the bag. Let's see if I can too. But great news that it's looking like he's trending up to playing in week 1.
Yeah, and we all know this. Like, I don't care what environment you are in, whether it's professional football or just the office corporate setting. When everybody around you in the same job is getting paid and you're not, it has to weigh on your mind. But we'll talk about that much more in just a little bit. Let's get to another wide receiver. And this is even more murky waters down in Miami. Odell Beckham Jr. was signed to the Miami Dolphins in the offseason to be that third wheel going on to dominant wide receivers on the top end that they have in Tyreek Hill and Waddle. Now we're saying that he's going to start the season on the PUP list, and it feels like this is really coming out of nowhere. Like, oh, he had an off-season procedure that he had. We knew about this all along. I don't think the Miami Dolphins are signing Odell Beckham Jr. if he's injured already, coming off a lackluster season with the Baltimore Ravens, and now going to miss at least the first 4 game, Dubsy, down in Miami.
This is a strange one for me, Donnie, and for OBJ now landed in South Beach, he's a downfield distraction at best. He's a distraction off the field in that locker room as well. And he's coming off a season, he had 14 games last year, clocking up 35 passes. The production, it's not what it used to be. It's not what it once was. So as a third wheel, as a third option, I'd say, okay, I would live with it. But I think there's a little more to come on this one for sure.
Yeah, I remember when they signed Will Fuller also. It was like, hey, man, what's going on? We're expecting big things here. The injuries just didn't work out in their favor. But also keep in mind, whether or not OBJ is going to be there and playing in week number 1, that offense we expect Dubs to be absolutely potent here. But it would have been nice if he could have fit in as that third wide receiver. But a long season here. They're hoping to get him back in week number 5. And certainly we'll see and build from there. Other news around the NFL, heading out to the West Coast for the Los Angeles Rams. Kyren Williams, how about this? Going to return punts this season for the Rams. He was phenomenal as a running back. And Sean McVay, the head coach, saying basically, man, if we got a player that's electric with the ball in his hands, Dubs, we're looking for more ways to get the football in his hands.
I like it. And, Donnie, we highlighted, fantasy drafts coming up. Kyren Williams, he'll be splitting a bit of work in that backfield with Ronnie Rivers, Blake Corum, obviously drafted high up the board. This one for the Rams. So I don't like it on the fantasy side of things. Maybe he loses a couple of reps there at running back, but certainly so dynamic with such a high ceiling. He is a game changer. So it will be interesting to see Kyren Williams returning that rock for McVay in the Rams. He was my boom last year. So I've got high expectations for Kyren Williams now getting set to take on a bit more work.
Yeah, you usually see those normal punt returners on a week-to-week basis, and maybe when you need a big play, you throw some of your best playmakers back there, but it's interesting to see. Kyren Williams will be returning punt stubs right off of the bat. What a great transition here. Talking about bats, you didn't get too many of them last night in Los Angeles, but what you did get was a Baltimore Orioles 3-2 victory over the Los Angeles Dodgers, a much-needed win for them. And I said yesterday, I didn't think Cole Irvin was going to be up to the challenge yesterday, Dubs, but he goes 4 1/3 innings pitched, 2 earned runs to keep his team in that ball game. Jack Flaherty for the Dodgers, 6 innings pitched and 3 earned runs. As we said, not a lot of offense out there, 14 total hits in the game, but the Orioles desperately needed that win last night and got it over the Dodgers.
Monster win here for the Orioles and what could have been a little World Series preview, just the 1 game back now in the American League East of New York. So they're trending in the right direction. I was wrong on this one as well. I thought Flaherty, the Dodgers at home, they just weren't good enough. And for LA, they got to get it together. They've got to get those big arms back. Yamamoto, Tyler Glass, now the sooner the better. But the Orioles in a must-win spot down there at Chavez Ravine come up. Trump's there for your Tuesday night.
Yeah, Tutel, could be a World Series preview on deck in that instance. You take a look at the Baltimore Orioles trying to fight off the New York Yankees and hold on or possibly overtake the Yankees for the lead in the AL East. And then you take a look at the Dodgers, 2 scorching hot programs out there with the Padres and the Diamondbacks trying to stay in first place. Another first place scenario, the Houston Astros and the Philadelphia Phillies last night tangled in the city of brotherly love. The Philadelphia Phillies, a 5-0 victory over the Astros. It was Aaron Nola being ace Aaron Nola on the mound, 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, no earned runs giving up, and Verlander, 5 innings pitched, 7 hits, and 4 earned runs. The Phils get the shutout. I believe that's their 13th shutout of the year. 5-0, big win. It looks like, Dubs, the Phils are back.
The Phillies are absolutely flying. They've won 9 of their last 13. Nola was massive for them, and the offense is starting to find stride. Every team's going to go through the ups and downs of a very long regular season in Major League Baseball. It looks like the Phillies are starting to find a bit of momentum at the business end of the year.
Yep, you're right about that, Dubs. It's always about Major League Baseball and what you're looking forward to in September, which means if you're playing your best baseball at the end of the year, that means you can go on a good run here and maybe make a World Series appearance. Let's get over to the WNBA. Upsets last night. The Aces went on the road to take on the lowly Wings. The Wings, Dubsy, 7-22 on the season, now improved to 8-22 with a 93-90 victory over the Aces. And Asia Wilson, 42 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 blocks in a losing effort. This was a team we expected to possibly win the WNBA championship and maybe run away with it, having their struggles now.
What is going on? Asia Wilson puts up 42 points and they still can't get the win. That's not good enough. And I tell you what, for Asia Wilson, third 40-point game of the career, that was a special night. Did everything in her power, go 16 for 22 from the field. I had no raps on the Wings there at all, but maybe they caught the Aces in a little look-ahead spot. We're just a month out from the playoffs in the W for Las Vegas. They're going to turn things around. If they can't get the win off the back of their superstar, Asia Wilson, who's right in the mix for the MVP conversation, that's not good enough.
Not good enough here, but again, you still can rectify that over the final couple games of the season before you head into the playoffs. And by the way, the action's super hot in the U.S. Open in Flushing Meadows. The reason I say that is it's going to be real hot today, but the action is hot on the court yesterday. You saw wins by Alcaraz and also Osaka getting her first win since 2021 in the Open. You've been watching a lot of tennis, Dubsy.
Flushing Meadows doesn't get much better than one of the Grand Slams. I tell you what, getting hot in Flushing Meadows, we saw that from King Carlos Alcaraz out there yesterday. He was playing in the sleeveless, Donnie. It reminded me of you out there on a Saturday afternoon hitting a couple of forehand winners. He had the guns out, and he looks to be the shortest price, the one to beat another formidable opponent going through the U.S. Open.
I was the king of the second serve, Dubsy, in high school. So we're ready to go this morning. And how about this? We're going to rip the Cincinnati Bengals next. At least I am. We'll be right back.
Mike Tomlin could have very easily put this to rest and say that, Russell Wilson is the starting quarterback.
Mike Tomlin's going to look at, hey, Russell Wilson led that clean drive. I think that separates him enough to give him the starting job. But I think you're right that the leash is going to be pretty short. And if Russell Wilson doesn't look good, Steelers fans pretty quickly are going to be calling for Justin Fields because of his scrambling ability.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
When you're really, really amazing like this, people kind of take it for granted. Same with Ohtani, right? People will sort of see, oh, Ohtani did this, Ohtani did that, and it sort of, becomes normalized a little bit. But to put in context, Aaron Judge joins the 1,000 hit club, reaches, gets it done. So earlier this month, he was the fastest player to reach 300 home runs ever.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
We're into a different regime, different ownership, different head coach. I like the head coach. Dan Quinn is a good football man. He has been around where he's been. They have won. Yes, he's had some talent there.
I'm incredibly excited for what this brings to the team. The defense, I think, is underrated. I think this is a good football team. And also, you talk about extending drives. I think Daniels has that ability. And that's something that hasn't been seen in Washington for quite some time.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
The only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
New to the Live Golf Plus app. Watch Live Golf any way you want it. Follow any group. Replay any shot. Anytime, anywhere. Any questions? Watch Live Golf live and on demand.
Week number 1 in the NFL. We're ready. It's on deck. It's coming fast next week on Thursday. So basically 8 days away, you will be watching the Ravens and the Chiefs on opening night. Game number 2, which is a Friday night. You don't have to wait till later in the weekend with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers live from Brazil. Now, the one thing we've been watching, Dubs, all off season long was some wide receivers and some holdouts waiting to see when they would get back to camp and if they would get paid. And it turns out CeeDee Lamb got a monster paycheck here that once again is going to reset the market for the wide receivers, or at least the top tier wide receivers. Brandon Ayuk, we're still waiting for over for the 49ers. But the one guy that we've had our eyes on for a long time has been Jamar Chase of the Cincinnati Bengals. And the reason is he's been showing up to camp, Dubs. He just hasn't been practicing here in the hopes that he gets a new deal. Now, understandably, he still has time left on his contract, but is eligible for an extension and more money, and he deserves that. And it seems like everybody around Jamar Chase is getting paid, Dubs, and he's not at this point, but looks like he may be willing to start the season without a contract. That's an upset to me, Dubsy.
Yeah, absolutely. You think you'd be getting risking it there. I mean, with 2 years remaining on that rookie deal as well, the fifth option, quite a hefty one, the fifth-year option set to go at $21.8 million. And rightfully so for Jamar Chase. I mean, at 24 years of age, everything we have seen is that this guy's an absolute superstar and a foundation key piece for the Cincinnati Bengals. If they want to stay relevant, they absolutely want to, because look at who's quarterback. It's Joe Burrow. This is something they can absolutely build around. They've lost a couple of key pieces there in the offseason, but this is certainly one guy that deserves the bag. You want to keep him happy. You don't want to upset him in that locker room. We heard from head coach Zach Taylor. At least it sounds like there's optimism towards week 1. But Donnie, from all reports, I don't know if I'd be so optimistic about putting pen to paper and getting that extension.
You know what the interesting part about this is, too, because it's still a human element. And, yes, they operate in a different stratosphere than the regular person, which means millions of dollars are at stake, and they already have made millions of dollars. But everybody knows you can, like, whether you sell insurance, whether you drive a truck for a living, whether you're in a cubicle, it doesn't matter. If you feel underappreciated from your employer, sometimes you're going to question the work ethic. Now, you do have to be professional. You are under contract. You do want to perform at your highest level, because that's only going to help you down the road. But it's got to be tough when you see a lot of people in your boat that are getting that paycheck, and you know well you deserve it. And maybe if you weren't on the Bengals, you probably would have been paid already, because you take a look at that wide receiver room. T. Higgins did get the contract extension, but it's a 1-year deal. That's the franchise tag, which means he's not up for another contract negotiation until next year. And the Bengals have basically made it known, Dubs, he's probably not going to be back on the team. So Jamar Chase is saying, well, where's my money? At least that guy got paid on the franchise tag. I deserve more and I'm not getting it. I'm just interesting to see how well that wide receiver room handles this season, because big things are expected from the Cincinnati Bengals. But if the employees are a little bit upset or not focused 100% on the games, that could be an issue. Now, let's head down to South Beach and Odell Beckham Jr., one of the more electric players we've seen in the NFL over the past decade, but injuries have marred his career. Looks like he was on pace, Dubs, for a Super Bowl MVP day when the Los Angeles Rams won the Super Bowl in Los Angeles just a few years ago. Goes to the Baltimore Ravens, gets a nice paycheck, but doesn't perform, heads to the Miami Dolphins, wants to perform, but now going to be on the PUP list for at least the first 4 games. I don't think I saw this coming, Dubs. Did you see this coming, as these issues in the offseason with OBJ now heading into the regular season?
And they continue to surface, Donnie, and nothing gets easier for Odell Beckham Jr. at this point in the career. You look at the production, that continues to dwindle. You could say, well, he's been slightly more efficient, but I mean, from 14 games last year, just catching 35 passes for a measly 565 yards with 3 touchdowns, you've got to ask the question, what really is Odell Beckham Jr. bringing to one of the most high-octane offenses that we've seen in the league over the last 5 years? He fails to get that first step now, so he's definitely lost a beat. As a wide receiver 3, I think it makes a little bit of sense. But for me, I'm looking back saying, where's the durability for a long and testing season? And look, the Miami Dolphins, they're only planning towards that playoff push. You've got to be healthy. You've got to get those reps in. Tua told us on Monday, he was asked by the media and the presser there, how's the combination? How's that connection fitted with Odell Beckham Jr.? He goes, to be honest, we haven't had any reps together, so I really can't tell you. So to miss the first 4 weeks. I've got question marks how far that will push into the regular season, but it's not a great outlook for Odell Beckham Jr. And for the Miami Dolphins fans, for Mike McDaniel, I feel like this is always going to be something in the back of your mind. We know the X factor. We know the pizzazz is there from OBJ. I'm sure he can still do special things at a special level. It's just the quantity that looks to be dropping off, Donnie. So it's not good for the Dolphins.
No, it's certainly not. And also, we understand, Dubs, right, that he's no longer the number one option on a football team. Quite frankly, he wouldn't be the number 2 option on Miami. So you figure if he's healthy, he can be slotted into that third wide receiver position where you're not getting any rolled over coverage on you. You're not getting double coverage where maybe he can have 40 to 50 catches in that third role and still be effective for the Miami Dolphins. It's something to keep an eye on. But if you've been injured the entire offseason, Dubs, which means you're not working on your game, and as you pointed out astutely there with your quarterback, it's all about timing with the new quarterback. And if you're not going to get that and then just say, okay, he's ready to go week number 5 when that offense is already humming over the first parts of the season, that could be a game changer for them. But we'll see what we get out of OBJ. Just not expecting big things now with that injury. How about this? The Rams trading linebacker and captain Ernest Jones to the Titans. And I like this. The Titans have made some very shrewd moves in the offseason, but the question's going to be, Dubs, are those moves going to translate into victories on the field for that team in the AFC South?
Look, I've still got a couple of question marks on offense. I've got a couple of question marks on the head coach coming in first year. I think it's the long game for the Tennessee Titans. But take a look at this. Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, Jones, Snead, Jamal Adams. And I tell you what, for Jones, it's more of a sudden shock for me towards the Rams. I didn't see this one coming. They've already lost Aaron Donald, and now to lose Jones, massive departure, certainly helps the Tennessee Titans. Will Levis, he better get that mayonnaise ready. That coffee, there's a lot of expectation for him to step up and just get a little sharper with that offense. But I do think we see a bit of an improvement. 6.5 wins is their win total, Donnie. The odds makers, they're still riding them off.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this after the break as well. And yes, the mayonnaise fragrance is in the air, baby. That's football. Yes, it is. The early line coming back right here on the SportsGrid Network.
Mike Tomlin could have very easily put this to rest and say that, Russell Wilson is the starting quarterback.
Mike Tomlin's going to look at, hey, Russell Wilson led that clean drive. I think that separates him enough to give him the starting job. But I think you're right that the leash is going to be pretty short. And if Russell Wilson doesn't look good, Steelers fans pretty quickly are going to be calling for Justin Fields because of his scrambling ability.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
When you're really, really amazing like this, people kind of take it for granted. Same with Ohtani, right? People will sort of see, Ohtani did this, Ohtani did that, and it sort of, becomes normalized a little bit. But to put in context, Aaron Judge joins the 1,000 hit club, reaches, gets it done. So earlier this month, he was the fastest player to reach 300 home runs ever.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
We're into a different regime, different ownership, different head coach. I like the head coach. Dan Quinn is a good football man. He has been around where he's been. They have won. Yes, he's had some talent there.
I'm incredibly excited for what this brings to the team. The defense, I think, is underrated. I think this is a good football team. And also, you talk about extending drives. I think Daniels has that ability. And that's something that hasn't been seen in Washington for quite some time.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
The only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
New to the Live Golf Plus app. Watch Live Golf any way you want it. Follow any group. Replay any shot. Anytime, anywhere. Any questions? Watch Live Golf live and on demand.
Oh, those Tennessee Titans, they spent some money in the offseason. The question, though, is that going to translate into wins on the field, Dubsy? Because when I look at the Tennessee Titans, and if we can bring that graphic up there for the additions that they made this year, Tony Pollard, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Boyd, Ernest Jones, they just make the trade for. L'Jarius Sneed, one of the better cornerbacks in football. Jamal Adams, we'll see if they can resurrect his career, because I see it as if Will Levis, as you were bringing up, just has a decent football season, look at the weapons around him on offense. Hopkins, Boyd, and Ridley. One of the better wide receiving cores in football. Throw in Spears in the backfield along with Tony Pollard. If he can just deliver the football as a point guard, this team should move the football. Now, am I saying, Dubsy, they can win the AFC South? I don't think that's going to happen. Can they make the playoffs? Maybe. But you're putting a lot of pressure on Will Levis. But I do believe the talent is there. When you look at the 6.5 win total, they should absolutely, Dubs, challenge that in my mind.
Yeah, I think they'll challenge it. I think they'll hover right around 6, 7. You won't see much of them in primetime. I think they've just got the one primetime game all season long. But these are the weapons that you need for a young quarterback like Will Levis to thrive. You know, we've seen a bit from Will Levis. There's a couple of question marks. There's a bit of inconsistency. But with new head coach Brian Callahan coming in, we know his background with Joe Burrow and that offense for the Cincinnati Bengals. I do think they get it downfield a lot quicker. I think that will suit the play style for Will Levis. In terms of in the division, it's going to be a tough out trying to get through the Texans, the Jags. I'm very bullish on both of those teams having big years here. But for Will Levis, he is going to have every opportunity to thrive. There's obviously going to be a lot of pressure on Brian Callahan to figure things out. But you look at the first 6 weeks here of the schedule, it's not going to be the easiest for him, starting off there in Chicago, followed by the Jets. But at 6.5 win total, for us as bettors, Donnie, that's the way you can approach a team like the Tennessee Titans. And you look at where they were last year, it's upgrade, upgrade, upgrade. A lot of green check marks for me. So the only step should be in that forward direction. How far forward will it be for the Tennessee Titans? I'd be buying more into that long game, year 2, year 3, with all these new pieces if they can figure things out. But very interested to see here week 1.
Yeah, DeAndre Hopkins going to be down for a little bit with that knee injury to start the season, but not expected to be out long-term, which is a good thing for them. And the thing I always like, Dubs, about NFL organizations, if you have a young quarterback and you want to find out about that young quarterback, don't treat him like Justin Fields and say you have no weapons to work with. Go out there and see what you can do. Give that guy some weapons to work with so you can see if he can be a future quarterback in the league, and Will Levis is going to have that opportunity this year. But yesterday, Dubsy, it was cutdown day in the NFL. Roughly 1,000 players were released from the respective organizations. And some of the biggest names out there, Kadarius Toney, which was supposed to be that wide receiver that the New York Giants are going to be able to count on in the future. He goes to Kansas City, picks up 2 Super Bowl wins, and now he's on the street because, Dubsy, if you're going to be a wide receiver, number 1, you got to be healthy. Number 2, you got to catch the football. And number 3, you got to be in it to win. And apparently, Toney wasn't there. He's got 2 rings, but now he's looking for a job.
Yeah, we've heard all reports coming through training camp that he wasn't getting the reps or the looks. So I guess it eventually came to fruition there. And look, Toney was a first-round pick back there in 2021. There's always been such a high ceiling, but in Kansas City, you know, they've got Xavier Worthy coming on to the scene, a couple of more young pieces that I guess they've got higher hopes for. And I tell you what, Donnie, being a wide receiver in this league, it is a tough job. That's going to be one of the toughest afternoons in this sport, waiting for that call, coming into the head coach's office and saying, hey, it ain't going to be here with us. So onwards and upwards. Bailey Zappi for the Pats, that was another standout for me. Not that he's looked fantastic in the quarterback room, but I mean, they're an absolute train wreck right now. And Desmond Ridder, no longer with the Cardinals. That was a standout as well.
Yeah, the interesting one with Ridder, too, was, hey, you know what, let's just see what he can do. Make it be Atlanta's quarterback, now already looking for another job on another team after not working out with the Cardinals. You see Caleb Farley, who also was not too long ago a first-round draft pick of the Titans, which is why you got to go out and get guys like Snead to sort of fill in those blanks. When you whiff on first-round picks, it usually doesn't help you and sets that franchise back for a couple years. Also, some other players out there. Lewis Cine from the Vikings was released. A couple wide receivers out there. Terrace Marshall Jr., Allen Robinson, and Noah Brown. By the way, the Texans, releasing some really good wide receivers. Why? Because that wide receiving core is absolutely deep down there in the South and should be a lot of fun. But we think Noah Brown certainly is going to find his way to some other teams. Also, one of the notable injuries that I did see was the Packers putting A.J. Dillon, their running back, on IR, and not season returning IR, season over IR for a neck injury. They picked up a big running back acquisition in the offseason to sort of lessen that blow, so they should be just fine in their quest to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, hopefully not in Brazil on Friday to start week number 1. Let's talk some Super Bowl futures right here on the early line. It's Dubs and Donnie on the Wednesday morning, and we'll be right back.
Mike Tomlin could have very easily put this to rest and say that, Russell Wilson is the starting quarterback.
Mike Tomlin's going to look at, hey, Russell Wilson led that clean drive. I think that separates him enough to give him the starting job. But I think you're right that the leash is going to be pretty short. And if Russell Wilson doesn't look good, Steelers fans pretty quickly are going to be calling for Justin Fields because of his scrambling ability.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
When you're really, really amazing like this, people kind of take it for granted. Same with Otani, right? People will sort of see, oh, Otani did this, Otani did that, and it sort of, becomes normalized a little bit. But to put in context, Aaron Judge joins the 1,000 hit club, gets it done. So earlier this month, he was the fastest player to reach 300 home runs ever.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
We're into a different regime, different ownership, different head coach. I like the head coach. Dan Quinn is a good football man. He has been around where he's been. They have won. Yes, he's had some talent there.
I'm incredibly excited for what this brings to the team. The defense, I think, is underrated. I think this is a good football team. And also, you talk about extending drives. I think Daniels has that ability. And that's something that hasn't been seen in Washington for quite some time.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
The only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
New to the Live Golf Plus app. Watch Live Golf any way you want it. Follow any group. Replay any shot. Anytime, anywhere. Any questions? Watch Live Golf live and on demand.
Wake up, people. We're getting you ready for the NFL season every step of the way because why? Next Thursday night in Kansas City, they're going to drop a banner. They're going to kick off. It should be an epic night between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens, two teams in the AFC that we think could be careening towards another AFC championship game. But let's have some fun, Dubsy, and take a look at the FanDuel Sportsbook of where these odds are rounding into form before we get to opening kickoff next week. If we're looking at who's going to win the NFL championship next year, of course, it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs at the top of the heap at a plus 550 price, along with the San Francisco 49ers at a plus 600 price. For a while, Dubs, those two are neck and neck with the same odds. Now it looks like Kansas City separating themselves just a little bit. But how about this as we talk about? Like next Thursday night's game, that includes the Chiefs, number 1 on the odds board right now at a plus 550 price, and number 3 on the odds board, that's the Baltimore Ravens at an 11-1 price. So let's just start there. If we look at game number 1 with two teams we expect to be players in the AFC, how much could that change your mind, Dubs, win or lose for either team on opening night as we move forward in the season?
First week of the regular season, last week of the regular season, I usually think and treat them as outliers there for me, Donnie. Yeah. But look, we'll be able to get a couple of key takeaways. It doesn't get easy in search of a third Lombardi for the Kansas City Chiefs, but I don't think it gets a lot tougher from trying to go back-to-back. You look at the weapons returning here, as long as Spag's going to be calling on the defensive side, Andy Reid's going to be scheming things up, but they have to improve those drop balls. They have to get better in the second halves. I thought they excused a lot of second-half woes last season off the back of some Patrick Mahomes brilliance with that postseason push. So I like the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Baltimore Ravens, they finish up top of the conference. I think there could be a little bit of regression coming. Lamar Jackson, I don't know if he can go back-to-back with another MVP caliber season. Derrick Henry comes in to that backfield. We know the run game is going to be heavy, but how those two are going to get amongst it there. Their defense certainly going to be strong, but for the Kansas City Chiefs at home, dropping the banner, they are going to be up for the occasion, and I do think they could be looking even better through the regular season, and hey, once we get to the playoffs, we know they've got the experience in bunches. So no surprises for me. The Chiefs are starting to firm up in the market at plus 550. It's not a bad price, but for the Baltimore Ravens, I guess that's the team that I want to see a little more juice out of early in this year, just to know that they are the contenders that we saw from last year.
And also, if you remember last year, opening night in Kansas City, yes, because when you win the Super Bowl, you get that opening performance in your own building. The Detroit Lions had a pretty good showing there against the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll see if the Ravens can do that. But here's the always tough thing, all throughout history. Nobody wanted to bet against Michael Jordan in a big spot. Nobody wants to bet against Tom Brady in a big spot. Nobody wants to bet against Patrick Mahomes in a big spot. But granted, they're not going to go, at least we don't think, 17-0 in the season, run through the AFC playoffs and win the Super Bowl and go perfect on the season. There are going to be ups and downs for the team. But you know what makes it so hard for me, Dubs, to look from last year to this year is last year for me, and I'll continually say it, that was the year to get the Kansas City Chiefs. They didn't have home field advantage. They were lacking at the wide receiver position. And then yet they go on the road in the divisional round, knock off the Buffalo Bills, the AFC Championship on the road against the Ravens, beat them, and then faced a very good opponent in the Super Bowl in the San Francisco 49ers and beat them. So now you take a look at the wide receiver position for the Chiefs. Worthy, Rice, and Brown, Kelsey at tight end, Pacheco at running back, Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback. How do you theoretically bet against the Chiefs? And also, are you looking to fade the Chiefs at times during this NFL season? Because to me, it's one of those roadblocks in your head that you say, how can I pick against the Chiefs when I always see them win out here, Dubsy?
It's very tough, Donnie, but I think you highlighted, a couple of great points there on the betting side of things. We saw the same last season. They're going to be caught napping, maybe against a couple of sort of weaker outfits, week 4, week 5, week 6, as they just sort of lose a bit of steam. But I think week 1, opening night, they're going to find that juice. But it's a long season going through the NFL. Obviously, depth and injuries, that's going to be a concern. And guess what? The more championships that you win, the more that your roster, the more that these players demand in price. So that's why it gets even harder and harder trying to keep all these superstars under the one roof. But I do think with those complement of weapons that you just went through, Donnie, I think it's a forward step for the Kansas City Chiefs. You've got a couple of more targets for Patrick Mahomes. That's going to give him plenty of confidence. But don't get it twisted. Every single week when a team is playing against the Kansas City Chiefs, I don't care what round it is, that's going to be their Super Bowl. And that's what makes it so tough for the Chiefs trying to go through the regular season without flinching. They're, of course, going to drop a couple. I certainly think they get to double digits. They're going to figure out their way into the playoffs and get set for another monster run.
Cohesion is such a big thing, too. You take a look at their room, right? It's always Andy Reid as that offensive coordinator setting up the offense, and Steve Spagnuolo has been a wonderful defensive coordinator. So year to year, that continuity is always there. Dubsy, it's like, a guy on the bag, a golfer. You want that continuity for years because you know what? This guy can read my mind. I'm going to hit a 4-iron. No, you know what? I think that 5-iron's the right move here. Having the trust to make that bag change here and club change, same thing in the NFL. Continuity on a year-to-year basis does pay off. Now, let's take a look at the San Francisco 49ers, who are at a 6-1 price to win the Super Bowl. Talented, maybe the most talented team in the NFC, and of course the favorites here to get to the Super Bowl. But the questions always linger. Can you be healthy for an entire season with Christian McCaffrey? And there is something to getting to the Super Bowl, Dubsy, and losing it, that Super Bowl hangover, knowing how hard it was just to get there. You're right in it. You lose a close one. Then you have to rebound the next season. How are we paying attention to and betting the San Francisco 49ers this year for you?
For me, Donnie, 49ers still the best roster coming in to a new season. Brandon Ayuk, they've got to get him happy. They've got to get him secure. But I don't think he's needed or essential to make another Super Bowl run. I think this is a team where you could possibly look at fading early in the year. Maybe they're a little sluggish out of the gates, but I do think there is a bit of class, and I do think they've got that X factor. For Christian McCaffrey, I mean, what did he put up? 21 tutties there last year, 14 rushing, 7 receiving. He is arguably the best player in the NFL, and certainly a few fantasy players. He will go in that one spot. So I think the 49ers are going to be right in the mix. Again, I think maybe we see a bit of a downtick in terms of their win total from where they were last year. But for a guy like Brock Purdy, I think he's still going to be doing exactly what Kyle Shanahan needs. CMC, whether he plays every single game, I don't know if we're going to get that kind of durability out of Christian McCaffrey. But if he were to go down, well, I think that would be a very quick fade for me going against the 49ers. They don't need all of their weapons, but they certainly need their biggest one cooking on full cylinders and healthy if they want to make another championship run. They were so close last year, Donnie. It will come down to having a bit of a hangover. Will they be sluggish, or do they take that? Do they learn from it and try and go one better in a new season?
Yeah, and also it's interesting, too, because you saw at the end of last year in the regular season, Christian McCaffrey went down with that calf injury, was fine for the playoffs, but now we see Dubs in the preseason and in training camp hurting that calf once again. They gave him ample time off. We'll be ready to go week number 1, but we'll see if that injury does linger. We also have some pretty good parity from, let's just say, 12-1 to 18-1 at the FanDuel Sportsbook. You got the Lions, the Eagles, the Texans, Bengals, Bills, Cowboys, Jets, and the Green Bay Packers. The one thing I do like is you get referendum games, Dubs, coming up in week number 1, which means the Chiefs are playing the Ravens. That could give you a leg up, because the big part about that is not only do you pick up a win to get a game ahead, but it's essentially a game and a half because then you own the tiebreaker in that head-to-head market. Same thing with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers. They play game number 1 in Brazil, which, again, that's scheduled to be an Eagles home game. How big would that have been, Dubsy, if that game was in Philadelphia and not in Brazil, so have a true home field advantage? So when we're looking at some of these teams changing up on a week-to-week basis, how about those Houston Texans? A 15-1 price. They're scheduled and priced as if they will be a threat, Dubs, to win a Super Bowl this year.
What could go wrong in Houston? Star young quarterback CJ Stroud, it's his second year. He can only get better. You've now got Stephon Diggs, one of the best wide receivers coming in to the mix. You've got Joey Mixon setting the table. I'm that guy. I am that guy, Donnie Rightside. I think it's a step backwards for the Houston Texans. I hate to say it, but I'm not buying in.
I love it. The contrarian views. We need them out there. We can't all love the same teams out here. Apparently, you can win money by going against the public. What a novel concept. Major League Baseball recap is on deck next, right here on the early line.
Mike Tomlin could have very easily put this to rest and say that, Russell Wilson is the starting quarterback.
Mike Tomlin's going to look at, hey, Russell Wilson led that clean drive. I think that separates him enough to give him the starting job. But I think you're right that the leash is going to be pretty short. And if Russell Wilson doesn't look good, Steelers fans pretty quickly are going to be calling for Justin Fields because of his scrambling ability.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
When you're really, really amazing like this, people kind of take it for granted. Same with Ohtani, right? People will sort of see, oh, Ohtani did this, Ohtani did that, and it sort of, becomes normalized a little bit. But to put in context, Aaron Judge joins the 1,000 hit club, reaches, gets it done. So earlier this month, he was the fastest player to reach 300 home runs ever.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
We're into a different regime, different ownership, different head coach. I like the head coach. Dan Quinn is a good football man. He has been around where he's been. They have won. Yes, he's had some talent there.
I'm incredibly excited for what this brings to the team. The defense, I think, is underrated. I think this is a good football team. And also, you talk about extending drives. I think Daniels has that ability. And that's something that hasn't been seen in Washington for quite some time.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
The only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
New to the Live Golf Plus app. Watch Live Golf any way you want it. Follow any group. Replay any shot. Anytime, anywhere. Any questions? Watch Live Golf live and on demand.
Welcome back into the early line. Dubs Anderson alongside Donnie Rightside. Time to talk a little baseball. It was a jam-packed Tuesday evening. The playoff push continues towards October. Let's bring it out here to the West Coast, Donnie. My Dodgers out there at Dodgers Stadium, they get dusted in a close one. The Orioles get it done 3-2 in what was potentially a World Series preview for the Dodgers. Just 3 hits over the final 6 innings and couldn't advance a runner past second after the third. So not good enough for the Dodgers, but the Orioles with a fantastic pickup win.
Yeah, very rare. You're going to go on the road against the Dodgers, go 0-for-6 with runners in scoring position that the Orioles did, and come away with a victory and a much-needed victory. And let's also keep in mind, the Yankees have been playing great baseball of late. On the East Coast, they dropped their game to the Nationals earlier, so the Orioles picking up a win, that's like a double shot there for them, and a great victory. And also, when you're entering into the ball game, you're a 2-1 underdog price, essentially, here. And you take a look at the game, and you saw me making fun of Cole Irvin. Man, they don't know what they're in for tonight. We actually was solid yesterday. 4 1/3 innings pitched, which isn't great, but only 2 earned runs given up, which kept his team in the ball game. And both of these bullpens were able to shut the door. And if we're taking a look from a Dodgers perspective, Ohtani, 2 of 4 to lead off. He's not hitting .294 in the season. That's 1 of 3. The reason I bring those two up is, yes, they're great players and they're superstars, but at the FanDuel Sportsbook last night, Dubsy, we had a nice little odds boost from -150, boosted to +100. Ohtani and Betts to each get a base hit. They achieved that last night. So even though the Dodgers did lose, the public out there still able to pick up some money on those Dodgers superstars. So at least that worked out in their favor.
And that's all that matters. From Chavez Ravine, we take it out to the bank. Philadelphia, the Phillies get it done 5-0 over the Stros. Nola was fantastic. 7 shutout innings. Castellanos hits a 3-run home run to get the Phillies the big score in what looks to be another look ahead towards October.
Yeah, fantastic win for the Phillies yesterday. 2 aces on the mound. Now, one in better form than the other. We're waiting for Verlander to try to get back to the Verlander of a couple years ago. But Aaron Nola, the one thing we do know, usually shows up at home, and he went 7 innings pitched yesterday, 4 hits, no earned runs. That's exactly what you want out of your ace. And in the bottom of the 3rd inning, Dubsy, the Phillies struck for 4 runs, which included that 3-run home run by Nick Castellanos, who struggled mightily over the first couple months of the season, now looking to turn it on a bit. The power is back. The average is now raising up to 250. That's a great sign for the Philadelphia Phillies moving forward. And also keep in mind, JT Realmuto goes 2 for 4 yesterday, fresh off of a couple games ago against Kansas City, having 7 RBI. Good to see him back after struggling after that knee injury. So maybe the Phillies now turning the corner. They have a game today where Taijuan Walker's been on the mound. We'll talk about this later. If they can win this game today for a sweep over the Astros and get a good start out of Taijuan Walker, that could be massive. Now, also on the opposite end of it, we're not stressing about the Houston Astros. They're still the best team in the AL West, but certainly you don't want to get swept on the road here against the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yeah, another big game coming up later this afternoon. It was a rain-soaked afternoon yesterday over there in Cleveland, and the revamp continues for the Kansas City Royals. The Royals as dogs getting the 6-1 victory over the Guardians. It was only last season the Royals lost 106 games in the regular season. This was a much-needed win, and they now sit up top along the Guardians in the AL Central standings, Donnie.
Yeah, how about this, too? Kansas City with another victory over the Guardians, and it looks like they now are the best team there in the AL Central, which is something we probably weren't talking about a couple weeks ago. We knew Kansas City was having a good season, but it looked like Cleveland with that 5, 6, 7-game lead in the Central was just going to run away with this. Now Cleveland is in the fight of their lives just to stay with the Kansas City Royals. But how about Lorenzen yesterday on the mound? Only an inning and 2/3 pitched yesterday, which led us to 6 total pitchers, which isn't the strength strength of the Kansas City Royals, the bullpen. They were wonderful, giving up 1 run to the Cleveland Guardians and 3 total hits. We're starting to buy into this Kansas City Royals roster. I like the 1 through 9. Serviceable starting pitching that has veterans and some young guys in there, learning to win on the way. And in a game where Bobby Witt Jr. doesn't dominate, only 1 for 4 with no RBI, and you're still picking up wins by 5 runs against division rivals on the road. This is a great stretch right now for the Royals.
The Guardians and the Royals vying for that wildcard spot in the American League. Donnie, I asked you, for any bettors who are looking to jump in and possibly punch a couple of tickets, who would be the biggest threat coming out of the American League? Would it be pointed towards the Guardians or the Royals? Who's built for the big stage to be playing playoff baseball?
This is what's great about the Major League Baseball season, Dubsy. It's so long here, and the tops and turns and the shifts and the focus here, because if we are looking between the Royals and the Guardians, just to give you a little bit of heads up, we'll go out to the West here. I buried the Astros when they were 12 games under 500 in June, saying this just isn't their year. They're just too injured. They don't have enough in the tank, and there's no way they're going to make up a 6 or 7 game advantage that the Mariners had. Now we sit here in the last couple days of August, and you see the Houston Astros, even with losing a couple games to the Phillies, still 3.5 games better than the Mariners at this point. So if we're looking at that Central and you say, which team is better? I actually think the Royals are better. And it's not just because, Dubsy, they're playing better baseball as of late. I always had question marks on the Cleveland Guardians and what we were going to get in that starting pitching staff. And also, can that entire lineup stay hot with some names that, quite frankly, you're not really used to here? And also, the Minnesota Twins, they are stacked as well. Only 2.5 games back of both the Guardians and the Royals. So if I look at those 3 teams right now, it just feels like the odd man out just might be the Guardians unless they can turn it around. But I've been so impressed with the Kansas City Royals. Sometimes we take a look, Dubsy, at the beginning of the season and say, yes, anybody can have a good record in April and May because you don't know you're bad yet. Once the cream rises to the top post All-Star break, you'll know who's in it to win it. And for sure, the Kansas City Royals at 75-58, they're no fluke anymore, Dubsy. That's a quality baseball team. And right now, that's probably where I'd put my money in the Central Division.
Oh, still value behind the Royals. What a turnaround season it's been there for Kansas City. You take a look at the last couple of outings going against Cleveland. They certainly have the measure of the Guardians. The last 4 head-to-head, it's been all about the Kansas City Royals, and they get to do it again here this afternoon, and they'll be going off with a little bit of plus money. The Guardians at home, minus 145 there on the money line. Michael Walker will get the start there for the Royals, so they are looking to rumble for you Wednesday afternoon. 15 games out on the diamond. It's the Yankees up top of the AL, and the Dodgers look flying high in the National League. Stick with us.
Mike Tomlin could have very easily put this to rest and say that, Russell Wilson is the starting quarterback.
Mike Tomlin's going to look at, hey, Russell Wilson led that clean drive. I think that separates him enough to give him the starting job. But I think you're right that the leash is going to be pretty short. And if Russell Wilson doesn't look good, Steelers fans pretty quickly are going to be calling for Justin Fields because of his scrambling ability.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
When you're really, really amazing like this, people kind of take it for granted. Same with Ohtani, right? People will sort of see, oh, Ohtani did this, Ohtani did that, and it sort of, becomes normalized a little bit. But to put in context, Aaron Judge joins the 1,000 hit club, reaches, gets it done. So earlier this month, he was the fastest player to reach 300 home runs ever.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
We're into a different regime, different ownership, different head coach. I like the head coach. Dan Quinn is a good football man. He has been around where he's been. They have won. Yes, he's had some talent there.
I'm incredibly excited for what this brings to the team. The defense, I think, is underrated. I think this is a good football team. And also, you talk about extending drives. I think Daniels has that ability. And that's something that hasn't been seen in Washington for quite some time.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
The only streaming sports betting network. Tips, info, and insights to up your IQ. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
New to the Live Golf Plus app. Watch Live Golf any way you want it. Follow any group. Replay any shot. Anytime, anywhere. Any questions? Watch Live Golf live and on demand.
Welcome back into the early line. Happy Wednesday. Dubs Ennis alongside Donnie Rightside talking all things Major League Baseball. And last night, all good things come to an end in Arizona. The Diamondbacks had won 6 straight, but it wasn't meant to be. Pete Alonso led the charge for the Mets. The Mets take down the Diamondbacks 8-3. It was the 28th dinger of the season for Polar Bear Pete.
Yeah, how about that game last night? I mean, you get out to an 8-0 lead against a red-hot Diamondbacks team and coast to a victory. And Sean Manaea, we talked about it yesterday, Dubs, on the show, setting up in pretty good form as of late. Now improves to 10-5 on the season after going 6 2/3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 3 earned runs. But how about this? 11 strikeouts yesterday and no walks. This game was a wrap by the 5th inning. As we said, that 8-0 lead. But look at the lineup and the distribution that you're getting here. It's not as if you had one guy with 7 RBI out of the 8 runs. Lindor, 2 hits. Vientos, 2 hits. Nimmo, 3 hits. Alonso got a hit. And then JD Martinez drops in the lineup as the DH. He goes 2 for 4 in that game. 13 total hits for the Mets here as they're trying to stay with. Now the Phillies have turned on the gas. The Braves have turned on the gas. And the Mets are saying, come on, guys, just slip up or we're trying to hang around out here in Arizona. That's a great win for the Mets, who are bordering on saying, you know what? Just slip up a little bit, Braves, and we will be able to catch you. Great win for the Mets on the road against a quality opponent in the Arizona Diamondbacks last night, Tubbsy.
Another team that just won't go away, the Padres, San Diego. They were on the road taking on the Cardinals last night, and they get the win. It was a high scorer, 7-5 in terms of your starting pitchers. There you can see Dylan Cease gets the 4 Ks, but plenty of offense in this one. And the Padres continue to play some really good baseball over the last month, Donnie.
Also, you know what's interesting here? Dylan Cease was a very, very dominant pitcher for a good stretch of the season. Didn't have his best start yesterday. 4 1/3 innings pitched, 7 hits, and 4 earned runs, which included 4 walks in that game, and they still were able to pick up the victory 7-5. I thought the pitching matchup was in the favor of the Padres last night. Haven't been a fan of Miles Michaelis this year. He goes 5 2/3 innings pitched and 4 earned runs, but yesterday, again, Manny Machado goes yard. That is a talented roster from top to bottom, which saw another 2 hits from Jackson Merrill yesterday as he now improves to a .292 batting average and having a sensational rookie year. The Padres, the D-backs, the Dodgers. Oh, is it going to be a good September?
Is Merrill taking out Rookie of the Year honors for you, Donnie?
I think he is.
I know it looks like, for the 2-horse race. Yeah.
I think he is going to overtake Skeens at this point because if you're playing in meaningful baseball games and being a catalyst on that team, that's only going to give you that bump, Dubsy.
Yeah, absolutely. There certainly looks to be a hot race towards the playoffs. All right, over there in Minnesota, the Twins couldn't get it done. It was the Braves coming up big, 8-6, and it took 10 innings, Donnie. They put up 4 there in extras. It was a monster finish to this game, but the Braves come up on top.
The one thing I do like is Spencer Schwellenbach, the way he turned his season around after those first questionable starts that he had. He's been great. Now, he didn't go deep into the game yesterday. 4 2/3 innings pitched, 5 hits, but no earned runs and 8 strikeouts through 106 pitches. Now, it looked like he was probably going to leave the game and be the victor, but the bullpen for the Braves fell apart. But how do you resurrect that? How about dropping 4 runs in the top of the 10th inning to win 8-6? The Braves trying to stay with the Philadelphia Phillies. The Braves trying to stave off those New York Mets. And also the Minnesota Twins now, Dubsy, loses a 3 straight. Can you imagine if the Twins were winning and maybe a 3-way tie in the American Central? Great baseball game, a lot of offense, which technically I didn't anticipate, but a great win for the Braves, getting that victory out of the jaws of defeat.
And Donnie, we're only 30-something games away from the playoffs. And at this point, you look at the odds board and it tells us, well, it's the Yankees, it's the Dodgers. But I really feel like no one's been a standout. There's a lot of parity. If you can just make it in to the wild card spots, every team is going to be live going into this postseason.
Absolutely, they will be. And that's the thing about Major League Baseball now with the advent of that wild card round. Sometimes it's the teams that are vying for playoff positioning that are getting a little bit left behind, setting up your rotation the final 2 weeks of the season while those wild card teams are fighting all the way through, Dubsy, and in playoff mode for weeks ahead of time here. That's the tough part about it. And baseball thinks they might have a slight issue because you want the better teams to advance. We understand that. But the parity in Major League Baseball, you're right. Once you get to the playoffs, it feels like anybody can win at any time. Just stay hot at the right time and have a good starting staff, and you can do some damage here. I'm looking forward to the playoffs as I am every year because those wild card rounds, you see a lot of upsets.
It's going to be absolutely chaos. And just to highlight the numbers there from the National League Rookie of the Year market, it's Jackson Merrill minus 185, followed by Paul Skeens. But take a look at that with the wild card watch. Yep. It is getting hot towards October. The Diamondbacks, 6 in a row. It wasn't meant to be last night, but don't go anywhere. The talk continues right here in Arizona.